Hey y'all, and welcome back to another episode of UHS Presents. So today we're doing another installment of Critical Affection. So let's crap on a TV show we love. Yay! In this four-part theme series, we are going to pick through each season of Netflix's Castlevania, which is the show that's obviously inspired by the extremely popular video game series, and we are going to point out every minor botched detail or unplugged plot hole that we can find. Today's episode is about Season 2. Joining me again tonight is our very special guest co-host, Julie.
Hi, everybody.
Julie. And obviously, I think everybody knows me by now that I'm Sarah. Fuck that up. I was doing so well too, wasn't I? Anyway, if you missed the last episode, it aired on May 31st, and it's available to watch on your preferred streaming platform, Facebook, Twitch, YouTube. And I will caution you that this episode is going to be way better because we threw that episode together in like a couple of hours. And this episode was planned just a little bit better. Now, it should go without saying, but if you haven't seen seasons 1 or 2 of Netflix Castlevania and you are hanging out with us tonight, spoiler alert. You're going to get spoilies. So, now that we got that disclaimer out of the way, let's get down to business. In season 1, we learned the tragic catalyst for Dracula's decision to exterminate humanity in the country of Wallachia. He meets his true love, Lisa, only to have her gruesomely ripped from his life by an arrogant bishop of the church who murders her, believing her to be a witch. Dracula goes mad with grief to the point where he savagely attacks his own son for trying to reason with him. And he declares to the humans that they will have 1 year to settle their affairs, after which he will bring death and destruction to the land. And holy shit, he was not kidding. We also meet Trevor, the not-so-heroic hero and the sole survivor of the legendary Belmont family of monster hunters, and Sypha, the naive young magician traveling with her nomadic family of scholarly monks called Speakers. Together, Sypha and Trevor wake Alucard, the so-called sleeping soldier of Wallachian legend, and half-human, half-vampire son of Dracula and Lisa. The unlikely trio decide to band together to stop Dracula from realizing his terrible revenge. I wrote that all by myself, and I hate writing synopses now.
She did a very good job. I'm very proud of her.
Thank you. I would love all the praise about that because I felt so proud of myself when I finished that. So the first season premiered on July 7th of 2017, and 8 episodes were immediately ordered up for season 2 on the same day season 1 dropped. Season 2 premiered October 26th, 2018, and it has a 100% critical rating on Rotten Tomatoes and a 91% audience score, which frankly makes me think that 9% of the users that rated it suck. I think that we both agreed, Julie and I both agreed, that the number of episodes could have been pared down a little. There was a bit of fluff inside them, but I'm personally fine that they didn't because it is by far the best season of the 4 seasons of Castlevania that we did get. So let's start getting over what happened. Alrighty, now I gotta get to my notes here. I think I'm gonna use my iPad for this. Big important stuff. So, let me catch up on we got some. Astian on Twitch said his butt has been sufficiently prepared, so good going. Katie said, hey guys. So, hey Katie, thanks for joining us. So, alrighty. Castlevania Season 2, let's do it. Episode 1 is called War Council, and it opens with a flashback to the day that the Bishop of Targovie succumbs for Lisa Tepish. We observe that she very clearly does not practice witchcraft, as the priests destroy her home when Bishop, he never gets a name, but we decided to call him Bishop Poopy Pants because he sucks.
Yes.
Sorry, cat hair. So Bishop Poopy Pants arrogantly asserts that he has a right to cleanse her, and Lisa begs them to stop, fearing that Dracula will what Dracula will do if they hurt her. But obviously, Bishop Poopy Pants accuses her of threatening God and church, and they drag her away. And we know what happens then, because it happened in episode 1 of season 1. Back to the present, Dracula addresses his war council. The council is made up of hundreds of vampires and 2 humans, for which every vampire except Drac fucking hates. He announces his plan to keep using the night creatures to murder all the humans, and that when the job is done, he's going to give Wallachia to the creatures. This very obviously pisses off the vampire generals that are in the front of the room. And then we learn that the humans, Hector and Isaac, are in charge of the entire war, and that Dracula puts all of his trust in them. Godbrand, the Viking vampire general, voices the vampire's obvious contempt of following the orders of the humans. He's loud and stupid, and he makes Dracula angry, so we know that we are going to hear from him again.
But he's cute. He turns me on.
He has a very distinctive aesthetic. And I mean, you got to give him credit for being able to say what's on his mind, too, because some people don't do that, and it's not fun.
Mm-hmm.
Anywho, we quickly touch base with Trevor and Sypha, and we see more of Trevor's jackass personality and Sypha's naivete. And we also witness Alucard's melancholy as he tries to come to terms with his decision to kill his father in order to honor his mother's will to preserve humanity. Hector explains to Godbrand a little bit about what forging is and how Hector turns human corpses into night creatures. Godbrand also apologizes to Hector for insulting him earlier, which I was surprised by. And he questions Hector on his feelings about the direction of the war and why there's so much chaos and what the end goal is just beyond exterminating humans. Then, as they're talking, workers bring a cartload of human corpses in from Greshit into the workshop, with the body of Bishop Poopy Pants flopping notably on the top, minus half of his head. Just before they go back to their respective business, Hector and Godbrand note with some concern that Dracula is moving the castle again, and they seem confused about why, but they don't question it. And Godbrand kicks a fucking puppy. No reason.
Fuck him.
It was a zombie puppy, but it was still a puppy.
Zombie puppies have feelings.
Yes. Okay. Episode 2, Old Homes. It jumps in with Trevor, Sypha, and Alucard as they discuss the problems they face in their quest. Trevor points out they're not equipped to do the job and suggests they travel to the ruins of his family home, where there's a secret underground stronghold that contains everything that the Belmont monster hunters found on their quest. He posits that the collection might hold information that they can use to locate and trap Dracula's castle. Fucked up my shit. Crap. Now I lost my place. I'm sorry. Sypha agrees that they should go to the Belmont stronghold, and Alucard seems skeptical, but he eventually agrees as well. Now we are back at Dracula's castle. We see the generals bickering amongst each other about what exactly the plans for the war are, when suddenly Carmilla of Styria just bursts in and announces in front of everyone in the Great Hall that Dracula is not in control of his army and that the death of a human is not important enough to start a war over, which obviously pisses off Dracula. He demands to speak to her in private, and he questions her about what took her so long to arrive and why she would say that and piss him off, to which she responds with some placative bullshit to make him stop yelling at her. Dracula is obviously very clearly suspicious of her, but he's just too depressed to care. So Carmilla notes that and moves on. Trevor, Sypha, and Alucard, we go back to them as they talk in their camp for the night on their journey to Trevor's home. Alucard tells them some stories of his family history and why he thinks his father is too mad to be saved and he's got to be killed. Then the trio are attacked by night creatures, and we see more of their collective fighting skills, particularly Sypha with her mad magic skills. One night creature notably escapes. Then we go back to Isaac in his workshop at Dracula's castle as he's self-flagellating, and he has a flashback about his abusive past, so we see what he's about. Godbrand brings Isaac a night creature and tells him it died just before it reached the castle. Isaac revives the creature, and then he returns to the Great Hall as the others are still squabbling over the war, and tells Dracula and the other generals that he questioned the night creature that he revived and learned that the raiding party was attacked on the road to Argesh by unknown attackers. Isaac states his suspicions that Alucard is awake and has joined forces with a Belmont, to the surprise of the other vampires, because they thought all the Belmonts were dead. Carmilla insists that they monitor the Belmont estate, suspecting quite rightly that the Belmont might lead Alucard to the Belmont trove of information that could be used to defeat the vampires. She belittles Dracula in front of him and his army, and she seems pretty fucking pleased that the other vampires have appeared to begun to doubt Dracula. Episode 3, Shadow Battles opens with a flashback of Hector's past, illustrating that Hector is a very simple person who hates suffering and death, treasures peace and his little reanimated animal companions, and does not understand why his mother would hate pets. Zombie. Exactly. Back in the present day, we see him create another night creature as Carmilla visits his workshop and talks to him. He tells her about how he met Dracula and about what Dracula promised regarding the war. Carmilla begins to manipulate Hector into doubting Dracula's ability to lead the war. Trevor, Sypha, and Alucard arrive at the ruins of the Belmont estate and locate the secret keep. When they get inside, they find a grand entrance to an enormous keep with hundreds of shelves of books and artifacts. Alucard bristles pretty seriously at the amount of information dedicated strictly to killing vampires, and Trevor recollects his childhood. Godbrand, back at the castle, expresses concern to Dracula that there will be no more food for the vampires once all the humans are dead. Dracula dismisses his worries, and Godbrand bristles at the notion of surviving on animal blood. Dracula intimidates and insults Godbrand into backing down from the argument. Carmilla catches up with Godbrand as he's stomping away from the meeting, and Godbrand declares that Dracula has lost his mind. Carmilla convinces Godbrand to side with her, and then Godbrand asks why he should, and Carmilla describes a tiny little sliver of history of hers about having been turned by a cruel old man that she killed. Tiny little bit. And she swore she would never be controlled by weak old men again. Episode 4 is called Broken Mast and starts with Godbrand dreaming about slaughtering human soldiers, and he wakes up from his dream pretty hangry. And he demands blood, and they bring him a pig to eat, and that just disgusts him. Back at the Belmont hold, Trevor discovers a mirror that Sypha and Alucard explain is a magic mirror used to view distant objects. Sypha scolds Trevor for his bad attitude towards Alucard, and then they share a light moment, and Alucard hears them laughing, and he seems a little sad, but also a little annoyed that they're fucking around instead of doing work. Trevor and Sypha express some affection over one another, and they collectively worry about Alucard's melancholy. Back at Dracula's castle, Hector and Carmilla are talking on the castle battlements. Carmilla continues to work over Hector, and he proves to be very easy to manipulate, as he openly states he's torn between his loyalty to Dracula and all the crap Carmilla has been feeding him. Carmilla seems to convince him that Dracula has been lying to him, and tells Hector her plan to betray Dracula, in response to which Hector does nothing. Godbrand leads the vampire generals on a raid to a human town to gorge on blood, and that's the only action that we really see in that episode. A flashback of when Dracula visited Isaac to ask for his help in the war demonstrates Isaac's insight, intelligence, and very strong loyalty to Dracula. Back in the present, Dracula goes to see Isaac, and they discuss the suspicions that his soldiers and even Hector are turning against him. They both agree that Hector only understands simple concepts like keeping the humans as pets, rather than exterminating the whole race because of how dangerous they are. Dracula confides to Isaac that Isaac is the only one who knows Dracula's true motivations behind the war and is his last friend. Godbrand visits Isaac's workshop and reveals he wants to turn against Dracula and listen to Carmilla. I call her Carmella.
Carmelo.
Godbrand reveals to Isaac that he wants to turn against Dracula and follow Carmilla, and that was a big whoopsie on his part because Isaac proceeds to murder the shit out of Godbrand while thanking him for revealing the betrayal in Dracula's court. Episode 5, called Last Spell, and we open with Isaac releasing Godbrand's ashes from the high tower in the castle. Carmilla instructs her troops in Syria to assemble at Brela. Alucard mocks Trevor's life at home, and Sypha scolds him for being so hard on Trevor, so now she's cussed them both out like little children. They find a spell that might help them trap Dracula's castle. Hector talks Isaac into attacking Brela, and then tells Carmilla that he convinced Isaac. Whoop.
You're doing great.
I keep hitting this button on this fucking thing. There's a little button here to edit, and then the stupid keyboard comes up. Driving me nuts. We're almost there. We're over halfway. So let's see here. Tell Carmilla about the night creatures. So Hector talks Isaac into attacking Braylon, then tells Carmilla that he talked Isaac into it, and also tells her that the night creatures she requested he dispatch have almost reached their destination. Isaac discusses Hector's request to invade Brayla with Dracula and assures him that none of the generals are betraying him. Dracula thinks about the past when he enjoyed exacting revenge upon humans who disrespected him, but sighs and says he's now tired and he doesn't care how it happens as long as he gets results. Carmilla and Hector get Dracula's approval to attack Brayla, and then Carmilla reveals her true motives to Hector, saying he can't stop it now because he's involved and he will be implicated too. Sypha, Trevor, and Alucard attempt to work out the details of the holding spell for the castle as Hector's night creatures arrive and begin their attack on the Belmont Hold. Episode 6, The River. It kicks off with the main battle, and the scenes start to switch rapidly between the Belmont Hold and Dracula's castle. Hector's demons start beating their way into the Belmont Hold. Trevor holds them off while Alucard locates Dracula's castle with the magic mirror, and Sypha works out the last of the holding spell. Dracula drops the castle directly into the center of Brayla, and the vampires lead a charge into the town. Unfortunately for them, Carmilla has forced Hector to reanimate Bishop Poopy Pants so he can bless the river. We're going to talk about that later. Carmilla's troops destroy the bridge that the vampire generals and troops are crossing, and they cause Dracula's army to crash into the blessed river, killing them. So we finally learn why running water is bad for vampires. Dracula's remaining soldiers retreat to the castle, and the Styrian soldiers pursue and battle them. Carmilla and Hector sneak away into Brayla. Carmilla is totally forcing Hector at this point. He does not want to go with her. Sypha works out the spell just as Trevor kills the last of the demons that are attacking their hold. Using the magic mirror, Sypha casts the spell on the castle, and she wrestles the castle's machinery from moving, causing the castle to flicker and begin teleporting within Brayla, eventually landing in the blessed river. The water floods in and kills several vampires on both sides of the fight. Sypha is successful in trapping the castle and drops it right on top of the Belmont Hold. Carmilla and Hector stand aghast in disbelief as the castle disappears from their eyes. And then Sypha, we come back to her, and she feels extremely proud of her work until she realized that she just dropped a 1,000-ton castle on top of a giant hole in the ground. Alucard steels himself for his hardest battle. Episode 7, we're almost there. It's called For Love. Dracula finally joins the fight in the castle hall. Alucard, Sypha, and Trevor emerge from the Belmont Hold and crash the castle party very dramatically. They take care of the remaining vampire soldiers in a very spectacular fight with spectacular music that was very reminiscent of a video game, which I assume they meant on purpose. They defeat the vampires and then are attacked by a group of night creatures, but those pose absolutely no problem to them at that point. Dracula and Isaac retreat back to Dracula's study. Isaac informs Dracula that Alucard has entered and he has help, and that he intends to fight, and that Isaac intends to fight to the death to protect Dracula. Dracula instead chooses to save Isaac by sending him through his magic mirror portal back to the desert. Alucard reaches the study, and the two, Dracula and Alucard, share a moment of grief before Alucard is joined by Sypha and Trevor. Alucard attacks Dracula, and he's backed by the other two. They battle Dracula as they move through the castle, causing him some trouble, but not really doing any damage. Dracula causes plenty of damage to the heroes, though. At one point, Sypha is badly ripped open on her shoulder, and she cauterizes it with her firepower. They explode through the walls and beams, Dracula and Alucard mostly, explode through walls and beams, eventually crashing into Alucard's childhood bedroom. This throws Dracula to his senses, and he breaks down when he realizes he is killing his own son. He has a very touching moment of love for his family and stops fighting. Alucard breaks off a piece of his childhood bed and stakes Dracula, who allows him to do so. Trevor runs in and then decapitates Dracula, and Sypha sets fire to his body, causing a weird explosion of lots of evil-looking faces. And once he burns, he leaves nothing behind but a scorched rug and his wedding ring. Alucard is obviously devastated that he just killed his father, but Trevor and Sypha comfort him and remind him that it was the only way to stop the war. The three slowly walk back through the castle, surveying the bodies and the damage, and they exit the castle as the sun is rising. Episode 8, we're to the end. End times, it's called, and it is really an epilogue and a what's next for the characters for our trio of heroes. As they survey more of the damage in the castle, Alucard decides to make the castle his tomb, but Trevor instead bequeaths the Belmont estate to him and asks that he be its protector and keeper and to use the knowledge to help the greater good. Then we catch up with Isaac in the desert, where he is accosted by a group of just giant assholes at an oasis in the desert who plan to enslave him and or kill him for food. Instead, Isaac easily dispatches them and turns their bodies into his personal entourage of night creatures. He treats the monster that he turned from the bandit leader, who was just extra assy, and he treats that monster in a very creative and cruel way. And Carmilla, back in Brayla, waits for the sun to go down while verbally abusing Hector, who stupidly decided to stick around with her. She savagely beats him and enslaves him, puts a big old gold collar around his neck. So she intends to take him back to Syria and have him forge her a new army to take over the vampire world now that Dracula's death has left a power void at the top. And Sypha talks Trevor into traveling with her to help her clean up the messes left behind by the war, the corruption in the church, and to find her speaker family so that they can relay the story of Dracula's defeat. They leave Alucard behind in his castle. Alucard settles in his father's chair, starts thinking of his family and his loss, and is overcome with grief and sags into the chair sobbing. Scene. It was actually a really good ending, I thought.
Wow, you did that in 22 minutes? Yay! See?
That was it. That was, woo! Go me! Well, that was plus the intro. So we're done. I am so distracted right now, too, because I can see the countertop over here to my right, and my cat is being a complete fucking psychopath over there. He's just like bouncing around and spinning and just attacking nothing. I'm so distracted.
All right.
Astian said, good recap. Thank you. Yeah. Was it better than last time? It was definitely shorter than last time.
Definitely shorter, yes.
The Belmont hole. Yes, that was the giant hole in the ground. That's what it is from now on. It's the Belmont hole. So now let's get to the bitchin'. Yes? Yeah. So in episode 1, not a lot of action. That's a little meh. If you're like Godbrand and you desire action and destruction and chaos, you're not gonna like this episode. I don't hate it because I like the story setup too. But I do remember the first time that I watched it, I was slightly confused because they just drop us in the middle of this hall of vampires that we didn't know. The only vampire that we knew, the only face that we recognized at all was Dracula himself, and we didn't know who the hell these other people were. So I remember being a little confused, but it wasn't that bad. So because they pretty much catch you up by the end of the episode, I think.
Yeah.
My observation: the bishop. In the flashback at the beginning where he takes Lisa, he mentions rewarding the woman who accused Lisa of witchcraft and said that they're going to pay her alms or something. So my hypothesis, like I made up a little story about this woman in my head. He is the village, not soothsayer, but like she's the village witch doctor, and she was getting all the business before. And then when Lisa started doing real doctoring, real medicine, and people started realizing that her stuff worked and this other lady's didn't, she got pissed and she got jealous. She's like, how am I going to get back at this bitch? And accused her of witchcraft and ratted her out to Bishop Poopy Pants. That's my theory.
I think you're I'd agree with that. I mean, it's like, instead of using prayer to get rid of hepatitis, you have somebody who can actually, help you out.
I don't think does anything get rid of hepatitis though. I mean, we're still a couple 1,500 years from that time period, and okay, I still don't think we can get rid of some hepatitis. At least some of them we can't get rid of. But to be fair, she was like that old woman that was there, the one that told Dracula that Lisa was dead in the first episode of the first season. Yeah. She was the one that we run into when we have the flashback. Lisa was helping her, and she explains the whole mold thing and how the mold's gonna make her cough better. And I was like, it's penicillin. She's giving her penicillin. Yeah. We know what that is.
Because we were talking about that a little bit too, like how unsanitary the conditions are, and I'm sure Lisa was telling people, remember, after you take a shit, wash your hands, just basic stuff like that.
Yeah. Imagine like, I know that nowadays we're like, if you don't wash your hands after you take a dump, you're disgusting. That's a thing. But back then, people just like nobody thought to do that. Like that wasn't a thing. You wash your hands wasn't the thing. You only washed them when you got visible dirt on them.
Yeah, I mean, you only took a bath maybe like once every 2 weeks. I don't know if you even had access to clean water, and most of the time you didn't. So
yeah, I bet baths were rare. They just would take swims in the river, and that was the closest they got.
Yeah,
probably.
Mm-hmm.
I actually read. I remembered hearing something about it, so I went looking, and apparently, wash your hands before doing medical procedures or surgeries. That was actually not really a thing until I want to say the late 1700s or mid 1800s. So like that wasn't a thing until surprisingly recently.
That's pretty crazy.
Lisa was ahead of her time with that.
Mm-hmm. Well, she was using these tools according to Lord Poopy Pants there. So
yeah, you heard it here first. Washing your hands, the devil's tools. You are worshiping Satan if you wash your hands. Oh, Katie just said surgeons took pride in their blood-stained aprons. That's super gross.
I love it. I would too.
Oh, Astian said he hasn't seen the season since the original airing, so I'm glad you enjoyed it. I'm glad you enjoyed my recap. You could tell by the end they kept getting shorter and shorter, so you could tell I was just getting sick of writing them by the end. I have to fix my ponytail. It's pulling down and it's making my head feel weird. There.
What else?
Do you have any notes about season 1 or episode 1?
Yeah, the only other thing I have here, which we kind of already touched on in the first season, is especially in the first episode too of season 1, is too much info. There was a lot that was kind of just thrown out to in at once, like you were saying about where the fuck did all these vampires just come from? What's going on? There was no story to it. There was no, whatever. You get the information along the way, but it was I guess a little jarring, some of these episodes. It's just like, whoa, hold on, give me a minute to process exactly what's going on and who these characters are and what their intentions are, but at the same time, when you stretch out all that information over, I think the next season has 12 episodes or so. It's more.
Actually, I think that the third season only has 8 as well, and then the fourth season has 10.
But yeah, when you stretch it out like that, there's a lot of dead air too. I don't think they like set up everything in a good manner. It wasn't consistent.
I agree. Didn't we say it was like episode 5 or something? Was like there was just not a lot going on. Episode 5 this season, there just wasn't that much going on.
Yeah. So
and then if they would have taken some of this shit and spread it out a little bit more, like the information is good and it's all there, but they didn't structure the pacing very well. So, yeah, I definitely agree.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely agree on that.
That's the only other thing I have for episode 1. The only other thing I wrote down is dirt portraits, because Alucard is very good with his dirt portraits.
He does. He draws a beautiful likeness of his mother and father.
Yes.
And then he like smears his mom's face. Like, what the? I don't know if anybody watching, if you have ever tried to draw something in the dirt with a stick, it's kind of hard. First of all, Alucard had some seriously super fine and even particles of dirt there. Yeah. So maybe it was like beach sand or something. I don't know. Because it was very fine particles and
magic.
And if you've tried to draw in dirt in like when you're a kid or whatever, there's rocks and sticks and shit in the dirt, so it makes it hard to do. And then you don't get the different, like the tapered edges of your stick. Like you need several different sizes of stick. It's not like it's not impossible. It's just he did it really fast and really well. And I suppose some of it's you got to give it to heightened vampire senses and abilities.
Yeah, because magic. That's a theme that came up a lot in this season because magic. Just
yes, that's like the thing through the whole thing, through the whole series is like just
magic.
When you have no other explanation, it's magic, and that's it. Which I'm okay with. I mean, the whole universe, the Castlevania universe, pretty much lends itself to that being an acceptable explanation for shit. So I'm okay with that.
Oh, we have some dirt comments too.
Yes. Astion said, high res dirt. Yes, that's the kind of dirt that Alucard had. I'm not saying he's not also a good artist, but he had high res dirt. Yes. Katie, I've drawn in the dirt. And you probably did a goddamn masterpiece, didn't you? Fucking super skilled life drawing artist people. I have no idea what I'm saying anymore. There was a whole articulate comment in my mind, and then it just all out my mouth, just vomit. I tried though. I tried. So yeah, that's my biggest griefs with episode 1 is just that like you said, they crammed a lot of stuff into it, and I was a little confused about stuff. They could have restructured the pacing and made episode, was it 5? Episode 5? I think it was episode 5. It was episode 4 or 5 where like just not that much is going on, and they could have restructured the first 5 episodes in order to, first of all, make us not so confused about who all those fucking vampires are at the beginning.
Exactly.
And then also to make there be not such an info dump in the first episode and then have to watch it twice or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, that's episode 1. If anybody who's watching, and we don't have a ton of people watching, but if you have any comments about episode 1, I'd love to hear them, because I watched them several times at this point now, and I don't necessarily see, like, sometimes you miss the forest for the trees or whatever. So comments. We want comments. Episode 2. What are your notes on episode 2?
Yeah, this one was another that is just basically informational purposes only. I mean, I just kind of have written down too many setup episodes. It's like I feel like I've like gone back in time and I'm watching Dragon Ball Z all over again, and it takes like 5 episodes for the guy to power up. Like, like it's just taking forever to get anywhere with this series. So
I never got into Dragon Ball because I watched a couple episodes with a kid. I babysat these kids, and the one was like 12 or 13, and he didn't need a babysitter. And ironically, he was the one I got along with best, but the other 2 were just brats. But he was in and out all the time, so the mom hired me to have somebody there at all times, especially because I think one of the little ones had diabetes, I think, and she needed an adult there to make sure that things didn't go haywire. So, but this kid, the older one, he actually watched Dragon Ball Z a lot, and I tried to watch it with him. I made him all sit down. I was like, I want to watch this one episode of this shit. And I even tried a couple episodes, and I was like, this is fucking, we just wasted an hour and nothing happened. Nothing happened. And why does what's-his-face keep fucking dying? And then he like takes the entire season to come back to life. He like almost dies, and then he takes forever to to heal, whatever.
Drag on Ball Z. Yes. Oh my god.
Yes. Oh my god. Yes. Yes. So yeah, in episode 2, like looking back on my synopsis here, they had, like you said, they had a lot of info, and they probably could have condensed a lot of this info, and there was a lot of info that we don't really need to appreciate the series, but it's fun, it's interesting stuff. So I guess I'm not against having the info in there. It's just that they should have given priority to the more important stuff and then peppered in the other stuff as and when it was available.
Like, as you're saying that, it's like a light bulb's going off in my head. They're giving you all this information, but they're not prioritizing what we do actually need to know versus filler. Go back to season 1 with the guy talking about his cousin or whatever fucking the sheep or goat or whatever.
Yeah.
Which again,
that's part of the whole season, but
hysterical. I'll give you that. But it goes on for like, 7 minutes of this guy talking about fucking goats. Like,
Did you time that? Like, yeah, it was like he talks about goat sex for several minutes. It just wasn't necessary. It was absolutely appreciated because it was fucking ridiculous, but it was not in any way related to the story.
Exactly.
It was so funny. It was stupid. Yeah.
Overall, like, what I think is the problem, we talk about pacing a lot with this series, and that's another issue. It's just they are not taking that information that really moves the story along for you quickly, and then you get those episodes that you're just sitting there like, let's go, all right, so
Yes. I agree. They do have the one they have the fight scene with Trevor and Sypha and Alucard get attacked by the night creatures.
yes,
That was pretty cool because we did see, like, we saw how Alucard can move at like lightning speed, and he has that red glow, and then he's gone. So that was pretty cool. And that, he would get more of his magic sword, which I love the sword.
oh yeah.
No innuendo intended. But yeah, we see that, and then and we see Trevor's got some really good. He's very agile, and he's got good reflexes. We see he actually points out his own reflexes in season 1. He's remember when he falls through the floor, because that's all he did for half that whole season was fall through floors, and he like reflexes like a cat. He's like, yeah, and then he gets less cocky in this season, so that's good. But he wasn't that cocky to begin with, because he was just like a stumbling, gross drunk at first, and we were meant to just be disgusted by him in the first season. But they have that fight scene, and I was most pleased by the by Sypha showing some actual fight skills with the magic that weren't just it wasn't just like parlor tricks, like making the ice wall and stuff like that, like she did in the first season.
You really get to start seeing what she can actually do. And them three together fighting is it's like a classic Dungeons and Dragons setup. You have the wizard, you have, I would say, Trevor is kind of like I guess he would be the fighter, but it's just these three different genres, classes coming together and seeing what everybody can do. And yeah, hell yeah, I want a whole 28-minute episode of just that. Put them tournament or something. I want to see everybody's like skills. They did a really good job with the fighting and the choreography in this series for sure.
Yes, I agree. I think that they obviously poured more money into the big boss battles at the end, but this episode 2 fight scene was not a bad one. It was really interesting to watch, visually very dynamic, and it was fun to watch. That's when we get the first time that they animate Sypha's magic skill with that sketchy glitchy stuff, and that just makes it look so much fucking cooler. I fucking love it when they do that, and I wish that they would do it more often, but I know that they don't, because first of all, it probably takes a lot of time and money to do, and secondly, if they did it for every time she did some magic, I would get sick of it.
Yeah.
It's best used sparingly, like Worcestershire sauce. So yeah, I definitely appreciate that, and they make a point of showing that one creature escape that dies on the steps of Dracula's castle. It came back to, and we don't hear any of the monsters talk in this season. We do know that they can, because the one monster talked in the last season, but we don't hear any of them talk in this season. So I'm interested, like, because most of them don't seem to talk at all.
Right.
I'm curious about, are Hector and Isaac the only ones that know how to communicate with them? It's not important at all. Like, I don't need to know that. You don't need that information, and probably many people didn't ever consider that when they were watching it. I just thought that was interesting. I was like, do they have their own little like monster, like night creature language that only Hector and Isaac as Forge Masters can communicate with them? I don't know. Maybe. Oh, let's see. I think yes, Carmilla with her very dramatic entrance. She just busts in the doors. Yeah, she sucks, and we know she sucks. And she comes in, and I thought, even with what we know her end plan was, what's she doing busting in and immediately insulting the guy whose home she's in? What's up with that? Like, that was a power move, and it could have backfired on her spectacularly. So she doesn't seem stupid enough. So she must have just known that he was not going to do anything. I don't know. Like, but why would she know that either? She doesn't. Oh, she did say Godbrand was keeping her updated, so he probably told her that Dracula doesn't care anymore. So I answered my own question, I think. Ow. So, any more thoughts about season 2?
Episode 2? No.
Yeah, episode 2. I keep saying season. That's like the 100th time I've done it. Episode 3.
All right.
What are your notes on episode 3?
I have written down pig's blood gives me the shits.
Yes. Yes, it does. I know the feelings.
But anyway, aside from that, yeah, this I think is where we really start getting into Carmilla, and who she is, and the 5-second backstory we get on her.
Yeah, they had all that extra time.
Yeah.
You know how with the bad pacing, they could have given us more backstory on her to give us some idea of why, aside from being like, what is her grief? Like, why does she hate Dracula? Why does she? I get the power thing, and maybe it's as simple as that, but why does she want power? Why does she want power over the whole vampire world? What's her motivation?
That's the problem.
Yeah.
The only explanation that we ever get is she hates old men, basically.
Yeah. She's something about weak old men.
And we do get a flashback to her killing her previous I don't know, I'll just say owner.
Her creator. I think she refers to him as her creator, and she might call him her master at some point.
Yeah. But that's it. And the shot even doesn't really tell you much. She I think she pushes him out of a window and ends up like hanging himself, and his head pops off, and it's it's really cool.
Yeah, she has you see the noose, and it's got spikes or something in it. It's a very weird noose.
Tension just rips his head off. It's cool.
Yeah, like rips his face in half or something. Yeah.
But she herself is dressed in it's this long white dress. She doesn't have a scratch on her. If they could have alluded to an abusive relationship, if she had bruises or scars or her clothes were ripped or something, so that you can just kind of like, oh, okay, that guy was probably a complete dick to her. That's why. You don't even get that. Like, I need to know, like, was she, again, physically abused? Was she mentally abused? Was she kept in a cage the whole time? Was she gang raped by God knows whatever night creatures? Like, I don't know. I want to know, because then I'd sympathize with her more. And ultimately,
she's a completely unsympathetic character. Like, she had nothing. Like, every single person in this series that we meet, that's every character that's important to the story that we meet, I should say, has something about them that makes them sympathetic to us. I mean, even Godbrand has more. I feel more sympathy for Godbrand than I do for Carmilla, because at least we know Godbrand immediately displays a lack of intelligence and intuition. Not necessarily, like, he's obviously very good at being a Viking and a vampire, but he doesn't have. He's not cunning, He's not insightful.
He's a lovable goof.
Yeah, he's just loud and brash, and he's a go hit things with sticks and talk about it later kind of guy. He's not complicated at all. Like, Carmilla is very complicated, and we see that, but there's no sympathy. That's you hit the nail on the head there. It's exactly it. Is that she is an unsympathetic character in every way. Like, there's they show that little flashback, but all we have is proof that she was mistreated is her word, and her word means fucking nothing. She is not somebody I would trust.
No,
ever.
exactly. Like, I'm all for, of course, powerful women and, taking back your, respect and your own power and your self-esteem from especially old white men,
Mm-hmm.
the assholes. But, she could be a bitch from the get-go. Like, she could just be a horrible person, but I want to sympathize with her. I want to know what her fight is really for and why she wants what she wants. But
Exactly.
ultimately, it just when you do that to a character, it's like, well, why is she even here? Like, I don't give a fuck. I don't care what happens to her. Whatever. Like, she became almost boring to me
Mm,
after a
that's
while.
exactly it. Yep.
Again, I'm like, I don't know anything about you, and so
All we know is she wants to be in charge. She wants not to be ruled by men, and that's it. Like, no reason that we should give one shit about what she wants. There's no reason for it. Like, Dracula, very, very sympathetic character. Even all the way through this season, all the way to the end of the entire series, he remains an extremely sympathetic bad guy.
yeah.
And you want to like. There's a point which you were almost like, yeah, we should give him what he wants.
Yeah, exactly.
He lost a lot.
I've been saying that since day one. Just Dracula, that character in general, it's the greatest love story ever told.
Oh, absolutely.
So,
With the exception of the Adams, Gomez and Morticia, because theirs still goes on.
true.
But yeah, like, definitely the greatest tragedy. I mean, when people cite love tragedies, they always jump straight to Romeo and Juliet. And I was like, fuck Romeo and Juliet. Romeo didn't know or give a shit about Juliet, and he wanted to marry her cousin or some shit, and Juliet didn't know anything about Romeo. Like, I it's been a while since I've read that story or seen any plays, but I mean, it's a shitty love story. It's not a love story at all. It's a story about family revenge. It's basically Hatfields and McCoys with prettier prose.
Correct. Yeah.
So yeah, if you want to cite a very beautiful tragic love story, Dracula.
Yep. Absolutely.
Castlevania Dracula specifically. I mean, I actually don't know how much of the Lisa thing is translates into other stories or other or like the because Vlad Dracula was a real person too. So I don't know how much of it translates into real life history or other vampire universes, but this vampire universe, very, very beautiful tragic love story.
Yep. Absolutely.
So Astian says that's a great pitch for a video essay on the series. Maybe we should get on that.
Yeah, that would be fun.
I need somebody to assign it to me as homework, or otherwise I'm not going to do it. I barely put any. Like, I want this segment to succeed. I want to continue to be able to bitch about TV and shows and movies, and like the amount of effort I have to put into this is like, maybe I don't want it that much after all. I don't know. So, my notes on episode 3 was just I was tickled to pieces. I just giggled my ass off. Trevor gets so much more excited about that fucking tree that they pass on their way.
I forgot about that.
He's like, goodbye, tree, and he just talks about it with so much affection. And then he is in complete awe. Like, this is the first time we get any real emotion out of Trevor is for the tree, and then for when he finds the Morningstar whip in his family's hold. So he's just, oh, it's so beautiful, and with the whip. And I know that's the Morningstar whip was a big deal in the game. So, by the way, I had questions because I have not played any of the games, and I've only ever seen one of them get run by someone else. But there's a couple of reasons why that was not very helpful to me as far as learning the story of the games. Because first of all, it was a speed run, so they don't exactly let you sit and watch the cutscenes there, and it was at SGDQ. So I don't know if you guys, anybody watches it. Summer Games Done Quick. It's a charity speedrun thing. And So yeah, and it was like 2:00 in the morning. I mean, I wanted to watch it and I was very interested, but I just was not catching a lot of it. But I had a lot of questions, and my new friend Maddox helped me with that because he is definitely very well versed on the Castlevania series. We asked him some questions. What the significance of Greshit is vis-a-vis Alucard's underground stronghold, and he said there wasn't really any kind of special reason for it to be Greshit, but that he does have a lot of the similar patterns, like the rug. He cited the rug, and there's a lot of stuff that's similar from the game to the series.
Okay.
Oh, and he did tell me we had the question, I think, from last season that I didn't get an answer to. That is Dracula the original vampire in the Castlevania series? Yes, he is.
Yeah. Okay.
He is, and there are various reincarnations who called him different things and referred to him as different types of lord, but in the end, it's always Dracula. And then back to Carmilla, which she's going to become quite the subject of our ire here, especially in the upcoming seasons here when we do our next 2 episodes for this. She's going to have a lot of, but then it kind of focuses on her, so whatever. Anyway, Carmilla is in the games as a boss in Castlevania 2, and they don't they call her a different name until an item is called Carmilla's something or another.
That's right.
And she has been in various games. She's been the wife of Dracula. She's been a servant who's trying to resurrect him. She's had several different roles in the various games. So none as antagonists to the best of my knowledge. So it's interesting that they just grabbed the name Carmilla they just plucked that name from the series and dropped it on to the minor antagonist. I guess Dracula in the end, technically he is the main antagonist of the show, of the season. But like, I hate calling him the bad guy. Because I feel so bad for him. And if he hadn't gone quite so insane, if you would have stopped, like, I would have been fine with him like leveling all of Targa Vista because they deserved it.
Yeah,
they did. And then and like peel that nasty old archbishop's skin right off his face. I don't fucking care. Do it, man. but like, yeah, he did. He went too far, going through and deciding to kill all of the humans everywhere because he found 3 humans that he loved, that he cared for, that he respected. So why not why not assume that there are more than just those 3 that are not shitty? You can't just assume they're all shitty except for the ones that I've met. That's how I treat life, but I don't have powers to kill the entire fucking world, so I can get away with it. There was I had a thought went through my mind when we meet Carmilla. Do we meet Carmilla in episode 2 or episode 3? Episode 2. Yeah, she busts.
Yeah.
We're gonna backtrack a little bit here because she busts into the door and she asks in front of the entire army why Dracula did not turn Lisa into a vampire. And it's an unspoken answer to that question, is that he loved her and he respected her, and she said she didn't want to be a vampire. Like, we don't know that for sure, but that's like it's kind of an unspoken obvious answer to the question. So like, Carmilla's a bitch, fucking whore for ever calling Lisa a pet. Like, what a fucking bitch. She deserves to die painfully. Ugh, hate her. And like, yeah, easy, because she's so unsympathetic. Like, I can fucking say that and not feel bad because she deserves it. She has nothing, no redeeming qualities at all. So let's see. Oh, I remember we were talking earlier when we were watching the episodes. We were talking about how tall Dracula is versus Alucard.
Yes.
Dracula also towers over Godbrand. So, and I believe Godbrand is maybe a little bit taller than Alucard too. So Dracula is just the tallest one, period. He's fucking huge. He's got to be like 8 or 9 feet tall.
Probably.
So, yep. And then so Trevor gets excited about the tree and the whip. Dracula's really tall. Carmilla's little tidbit of a flashback is all we get for her. So she's, yeah, super unsympathetic. So I think that's all I have for season or episode 3.
That's all
Yeah.
I have for that. Yeah.
All
Yeah.
right. Onward to episode 4.
Oh yeah, this was another boring one.
Yeah. I do have more notes. I have a slightly larger block of notes on episode 4 than I do on anything except, of course, episode 7.
Yeah, what do I have here? I wrote nothing happened.
Another hangnail.
Oh, that sucks.
It's hurting me. Look at my hangnail. Oh shit. Episode 4. Yeah, I say again. When she's talking to Hector, Carmilla refers to Lisa as a pet again, and Hector has to fucking know the unspoken answer to that question. Like, why didn't he turn her? It's because he respected her. It's not even because he loved her, because we can love people that we don't respect, or we can love, like, I don't respect my cat in the same way that I respect my boyfriend, but I still love them both.
Yeah.
So, you know, but like Hector would have known the answer to that question. He didn't turn Lisa because Lisa asked him not to, and he respected her. She at one point suggests that Dracula also does not care about the other vampires, which he says so. He says much himself in another episode down the line here, when Dracula and Isaac are talking, they about whether or not to attack Brayla.
Right.
So yeah, I'll talk about that when we get to that point. Oh yes, in this there's one point, and maybe somebody can point this figure this out for me. At one point in episode 4, Dracula uses his magical distance mirror to call up this forest, and then he tosses a blanket through the portal onto the forest floor, and then he just walks off. What did we? And then he walks off, and then we see him, like, all the other vampires are eyeing him suspiciously. But do we ever learn what the fuck the blanket was for? Like, what was the blanket about?
No, and I am drawing a blank on the scene that you're talking about right now, to be perfectly honest with you.
So let's see here. It's at episode 4, and let's see. Well, it's somewhere in the middle there. It's kind of middle to early second half of it. So yeah, we don't ever get, like, what was the point of that? Like, that seemed to be completely unnecessary. We don't learn what the point of that was.
Yeah, I remember now, and I don't. No, it doesn't go anywhere, I don't think.
Yeah, I don't know what that was about. So if anybody else knows, hit me up. Yeah, that was the extent of my episode 4 notes, because yeah, nothing really goes on there. We get more setup, and not a ton of backstory, but more setup. Episode 4 we get Godbrand's very, very bloody dream, and Godbrand's very bloody, he leads the other vampire generals out to destroy that town. Let's see. Yeah, we do get a flashback. Okay, we do get a flashback about when Dracula visited Isaac to ask for his help. But we don't get any answer about why that blanket was important, and we don't get any. There's not a lot goes on.
Nah.
Again, it's another problem with pacing. Like, I think that they could have cut one episode. They didn't need 8 episodes to do all this stuff.
Exactly.
They probably could have done all the story in 6, and if they would have paced it better, it would have been a more nutrient dense 6 episodes, I guess, versus this, where we have a lot of kind of almost dead. It's not dead air, but it's almost dead air.
Yeah.
Episode 4, hangnail. Yes, it's very serious business. It could get bloody. Astian said, I did a Google, and the consensus seems to be that the mirror blanket thing was foreshadowing, with Dracula testing that he could modify the viewing mirror to allow him to send things and later people through it, someone through it. Oh, yeah, because he sends Isaac. You would think he would know that already, right?
He's how fucking old and he doesn't know what his own, like,
Yeah, and he's had that mirror for a long time. You think you would know that? I don't know if I subscribe to that theory.
That makes sense to me because we as the viewer, we're stupid and we need to know, that he has that power and we need that. Oh,
yeah,
remember he did that earlier in the episode. So yeah, he can do that, right? Yeah, like
Yeah, but at one point, when Trevor finds the viewing mirror, the magic mirror in the Belmont stronghold, Alucard explains that some of them can be used to move objects and used as portals. So we didn't really need to be shown that you could throw things through the mirror. We were told that that's possible, and that we should assume that Dracula, as the most powerful vampire, would have that kind of a mirror, like the mirror that could do all of it.
It's
as
probably
opposed to just view.
Like it was probably a studio thing or whatever. Like, well, people aren't gonna know what the fuck he's doing, so you gotta have a scene.
One of those executives that don't know what the fuck they're talking about and think that we're all stupid.
Exactly. I mean, that's what my husband and I talk about that all the time and complain about that with movies like that are just like,
that's the reason those fucking asshole stupid moron executives is the reason that Suicide Squad suck.
Yeah.
You know it is.
Yep.
You know it.
Yep.
Damn it.
So, but yeah.
I appreciate you looking into the lore anyway. Astian said I'm not that deep into the lore, sorry. And I appreciate that you looked in the first place. Because I wasn't going to do it right now. Because I'm busy focusing on not screwing this up. So, let's see. Moving on. Yeah, episode 5. Say it with me, Julie. With episode 5, penis spells.
Yes.
Oh, Sypha finds an entire book of spells about penises.
Yeah, it's the original Viagra. I don't know.
Yeah, it's probably one of them, or probably multiple, because let's be honest, men absolutely would write a spell for making their dick hard before they would do anything. Like, it's just, I'm sorry, men, but it's true. I know you all.
Yeah, that's all.
Yeah, I'm telling you. They'll make it's to make it bigger and to make it harder. And that's probably half the spells in the book.
Men.
Anyway, that unlike the thing about the penis spells, like you want to go, oh, that was gross and unnecessary, like the goat sex story in season 1. But I disagree about that. If anybody is going to argue about that was an unnecessary addition, the penis spells. First of all, having Sypha say it with her cute little baby voice.
Oh, yes.
Fucking priceless.
Yeah.
But also, it's not a completely useless piece in there. It's meant to illustrate the breadth and how detailed they kept their notes. The Belmonts kept their notes in a very detailed manner, and they were so detailed and specific, and they organized it so well that they had an entire section dedicated solely to spells about penises. So it was so like it wasn't as unnecessary as the goat sex, but actually the goat sex was more entertaining because it's such a fucking random, ridiculous thing. Astian said there's a reason Potterheads all know the spell engorge you. I bet there is. We may need these penis spells to combat vampires. You never know, though. You never know. I mean, obviously, vampires have penises. Otherwise, how did Dracula knock Lisa up?
Yeah.
So...
Well, there have to be counter spells then, right? There has to be a spell to, shrivel up your, dick, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, that would be an effective way to harm your enemy. If you didn't want to kill him, but you just wanted to really hurt him.
Just ruin his life forever.
Yeah, especially if they were a very vain, like a Gaston type.
Yeah, exactly.
He's not obviously a Castlevania character, but fuck y'all, I'm gonna bring him up anyway. He's so arrogant and vain, and he's very in love with himself and his own masculinity. So he would absolutely want to have spells that focus on making his dick prettier in some way.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So, yeah. And there's people like that in this universe as well. Like there has to be. So, and episode 5 was another one where stuff happens, but it's mostly set up for the insanity that happens next.
Yeah, that one was there was a good battle in that one. Or wait, no.
No, it was just the beginning. Like it was
Right.
the demons, right? Yeah, that's the closest thing to any actual action that we get is that they are just about to crack that holding spell, and then
Like it was just a big tease, you know?
yeah,
Like
yeah,
that whole episode, nothing happens, and you're like, oh shit, finally, and then credits.
and then yeah, roll credits starring Richard Armitage.
So, I mean, that's,
Fucker.
I mean,
Did
yeah,
it on
honestly,
purpose. You
that's
know
all
they did.
about that episode.
Yeah, that episode has a lot of but it's an important, like, the information in it is pretty important because that's where they find that spell that is going to turn out to be instrumental in getting
Yeah,
the meetup between Dracula and our trio of heroes. Like,
not the
and
penis.
also,
That's all they actually need.
right, yeah. I mean, we needed to know about them. I don't know. We didn't need them for the battle, but we definitely needed to know about them.
Yeah, and it was a good bonding episode, I think, for the three of them too.
Absolutely, yes, I definitely agree on that.
So,
because they like Trevor. You see the buds of romance starting to form with Trevor and Sypha, and they express some genuine concern about Alucard and what he's going to have to do soon, and how he feels about it. Like, he's very. I mean, you see him. He's super emo through all of season 1 and 2. Every bit of him that we get is he's emo through the whole thing, and it's because, well, if your mother was murdered gruesomely and then your father went crazy and you knew the only way to stop him from hurting other people was to kill him, like, that would make me a little bit emo too, I think. So I can't give, like, it's like he's very, he's very dramatic, and it's like almost to the point where it's cliche with his melancholy. I keep using the word melancholy, but I just don't know what other word could possibly describe it.
Yeah, no, that's a good word. But he does have a few one-liners that are pretty good. So it's a good visualization to see that he is his human part of himself and also the vampire part of himself. I think they really represent both halves very well with his interactions with Trevor, especially, and them, basically having a small bromance throughout this season, especially, like, fuck you, hey, fuck you too, bro. But then they, like, make out, afterwards, so.
yeah. So the stuff that happens in the episode is important, but back to that condensing thing, they could have done that with better pacing and made the time go better, I think. So yeah. So, those are my thoughts on episode 5. I keep saying it. I'm gonna do it for the rest of this whole fucking thing. It's gonna be seasons. Episode 6. Episode 6. I have, and I know that you wrote it down too. Trevor is a moron who doesn't know how to block a door shut. He pulls this one skinny shelf, like this short ass, like it's not even a 4-foot long board shelf, off of the wall, and he's like pulls it up to the door, and he's like, huh, and then he like tries to set it against the door to block it. It's like, how does he have all these mad fighting skills, but he doesn't know how to block a fucking door shut? I mean, he didn't even know that you gotta, like, there was no hook to drop a board down into. There was no latch. There was no hammer and nails to barricade the door.
No.
And then at one point, a demon busts through the door, and we both, when we were watching it earlier, we were both like, "Oh, he didn't block that door shut."
That's what happens.
Poor Trevor. Poor Trevor. But the episode 6, like, we get finally some action. We've been waiting for. We got one good fight scene through the whole season up to this point. So I was pretty happy about that.
Yeah, that was a really good fight. You see more of Trevor's. Well, now you get to see Trevor with the Morning Star. Right, that's what it's called.
Yeah, the Morning Star Whip. Yeah.
So you get to see that in
Magically length changing whip. It just changes its length to whatever size he needs.
Yeah. So that was really cool because you get to see him now finally I'll say in his element, I guess. But and
Yeah,
how
okay.
natural he wields that weapon, and seeing the power it has behind it, and when it touches the demon, it basically causes them to like fucking explode, which is awesome. So
Mhm.
and he does like some capoeira like shit too with his feet at one point. That is like fucking weird. But
Yeah.
he's like breakdancing at one point, but
Yeah. There's the demons. There's one of the demons resembles a minotaur kind of. He's like got a bull head and like a more of a humanoid body. And Trevor jumps on his neck, and then I shit you not, it's a fucking bucking bronco scene. Like he is riding the bucking bronco like a goddamn Lane Frost or whatever.
Yep.
And then, but then it ends in a really good death because he like swings he's got his sword lodged in the thing's throat, and he like grabs it from the other side and pulls it to slice his neck open. So that was like it was kind of a cheesy fucking Bronco thing that they did, but it ended up with a pretty creative good death, like the good death scene.
Yeah.
And then in episode 6, when he's fighting these demons in the hold in the Belmont hold, the demon with the bandages around his eyes,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
he's the one with the stick. Remember the stick?
The stick.
The stick.
Stick returns.
So yeah, he kills the demon with the bandages, and in the process the demon has this like walking stick, I guess. It's got some kind of magical runes on it, so it's more than just a walking stick. But I don't know what else you would call it. A wand, a staff, I guess. A staff. Staff.
Better. Yeah, staff.
But then, yeah, it breaks in half at some point during the fighting, and he defeats the bandaged-eyed demon, and then this bird demon comes down, and Trevor's like, "I'm armed," and he like looks at it with a stick.
Like, yeah,
with a stick, and he just, and then I think the bird just like, well, no, the bird doesn't smack it out of his hand because he keeps that stick for a later fight.
He does.
But yeah, so lots of action in that episode. I was happy to get it the first time I watched them. I was like, finally, some things are happening. And at the kind of the end of episode 5, we get a moment with just Alucard's face where he's going, "Oh fuck, it's time. I'm gonna have to do this, aren't I?" And then, excuse me, they oh my god, I'm burping. Pardon me. Yeah, so episode 6, yeah, they do that. Oh my god, I almost forgot about the zombie priest.
Oh yeah.
How could I forget about him? So we note there's several points throughout the season, all the way up to episode 6, where when we are in Hector's workshop, they pointedly show that Bishop Poopy Pants' body is still there on the top of his pile of corpses.
Yeah.
And that they obviously are hinting that they have an ultimate purpose for this corpse. And the purpose ends up being Carmilla wants him to reanimate the corpse as just a corpse rather than a night creature, so that she can send the zombie bishop into the river at Brayla and bless it, thereby making it holy water, so that if you push a demon or a vampire into it, they'll die. And my thoughts, this is what has been pissing me off about this whole thing. First of all, if you are going to assume that you need the blessing of God himself in order to be able to bless anything as a priest, this guy lost it before he died, long before he died. He was very corrupt and greedy and selfish and not godly in any way long before he died. So explain to me why he was able to bless things before he died, never mind after he turned into a fucking zombie, and then fucking what? He was killed by a demon who told him that his church was no longer the house of God,
Right.
because God didn't love him anymore. He's the demon in the season 1 when we see the bishop get killed. He says your God doesn't love you anymore.
Yeah.
And he so like why would he have the power to bless shit anymore? So and then not only that, but like then they kill him, they reanimate him as a fucking zombie, and then he blesses a river and it works.
I don't get it, because my problem with it is if he was turned into something that was, I'll just say, more unholy, I don't know. He was corrupted and evil now. Why when he blesses things, it should do the opposite now. It should make them, rot. It should make it decay. It should, cause death. I don't think he should have the power to bless anything anymore if he's been turned into a zombie. That doesn't make sense to me.
And we know that he is an unholy creature because the moment he's done blessing the river, he bursts into fucking flames and sinks. Yeah. He is destroyed by the river that he blessed. So like we know he's an evil creature. So how the fuck was he still able to bless anything?
Like I mean,
I grew up Catholic, so I'm just sitting here going, no, he would not have that power. He would not have that power anymore. I don't want to know as much as I know about the Catholic Church, but I do. And I can tell you right now, a zombie does not have any authority to bless anything. It's just like it's not the same as the resurrection of Christ. It just isn't.
No, it would have made more sense if they kind of did what Trevor did. I think it was in the first season when he asks, "Is anybody like a holy man like blessed?" Or maybe that was in the later season.
No, he did that in episode 3 or 4 of the first season. It was I remember. It was right when they were trying to stop the demon horde from Grisha.
But like it would have made more sense if like Carmilla grabbed like whatever, a priest or whatever, and forced
Dracula dropped the castle right in the middle of the fucking town. It would have been super easy for her to pop out and kidnap the nearest priest, which the castle in oldie timey towns, the church was always the center of the town, so it would have been super easy for her to locate the church and then go to so the one hitch in that spell, that plan would be that is she able to go into a church as a vampire? But she could have gotten Hector to do that, so that's no excuse. Like that plan is still solid because she could have forced Hector to do that, and that fucking moron would have. This is an idiot. Yeah. And he, at this point, was still absolutely believing that he was doing the right thing, despite what Carmilla told him. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I don't like that. That was a fucking like they. I get why the creators did it. They did it because Bishop Poopy Pants was such a giant piece of shit in life that he deserved to die twice.
Yeah, true.
I get it. I do. But this was a terrible way to kill him twice. We could have easily done something a lot more creative. Although this was creative, don't get me wrong. I'd never seen the whole demons or vampires killed by river water.
Yeah.
But the bishop should not have been able to be the one to make that happen. He shouldn't have. He just shouldn't have.
No. Well.
So that was the thing, and Carmilla was controlling him too. Carmilla was telling the bishop what to do, and they make it very clear that the night creatures, the zombies, they only obey the Forge Master that created them. So she shouldn't have been able to tell him to do anything.
True. Mm-hmm.
But I just that to me is a completely avoidable plot hole. And I know they never specifically say that the church in the series is the Catholic Church, but they're using so much Catholic imagery that it's meant to be implied. It's very obvious it is the Catholic Church.
Yes.
So yeah, like knowing what I know about Catholicism and Christianity and stuff.
Yes.
Like that just isn't possible, and it was completely avoidable oopsie doodle to have in that season and in that episode. So yeah, that was. I mean, I'm able to overlook it to a point, but since we're nitpicking, like the whole point of this is to nitpick, I'm gonna nitpick the ever loving shit about that. And I'm never like the very first time I saw it, was like, what the fuck? He can't do that. And yeah. And I'm never gonna stop thinking that every time I see it. I'm gonna wonder why he was able to do that. And that was an extremely important part of Carmilla's plan too. So it shouldn't have happened that way. It should have been like you said. She should have had Hector kidnap a priest. That would have been an easy way to work around that. And we never had to actually see the bishop again. Like, as cool as it was to see him die twice, it wasn't worth it. It wasn't worth it. The payoff wasn't worth the plot hole that it created.
No, exactly.
So, I am disappointed in that.
Yeah.
So.
Oh,
that was my biggest griefs with this episode 6. And Astian, evil people using holy magic is a cool discussion topic. Maybe God never existed and the body just performed the rite like a stick carving a magic circle in the dirt river. Oh, circle drawing. So it is a really interesting discussion, and we could do that sometime about, like, because there's so much pop culture that revolves around the use of religious symbols and incantations and rituals and stuff. I mean, Supernatural is fucking, like, every single episode they somehow have to reference back to some Bible thing or some pre-Bible, proto-Christianity crap. So I mean, like, we could there's tons of it we could reference when discussing what happens. So like, I'm just so, that was just such a thing for, like, it's such a thorn in my side with this whole season. Like, this is an amazing season. It's by far the strongest season of the series of Castlevania, and yet we have that one glaring part that was just wrong. Okay, we'll put a pin in the hole using holy magic as a tool, because that is a very interesting one, and that might be something I want to explore further. But for now, we better move on to episode 7. We're almost there. Episode 7. What are your notes?
Flying block of ice killing villagers. That's what I have.
Oh, yeah. I mean, so, okay, what she's talking about is when Sypha uses that ice column to raise, so she drops that giant-ass castle on top of a huge hole in the ground. They have no way else to get up there except climbing, very difficult. And so Sypha uses her magic and the ice to just make a column, a platform to raise them up out of the dirt. And then when they're done, she uses her magic to, like, lift the column of ice up, and she chucks it off into the forest.
It just, you see it, like, fly off into the distance in, like, these trees and whatever. And this thing is fucking huge too. It must weigh, like, 1,000 tons or whatever. And I'm just thinking, like, where the fuck did it go? Did it land on, like, a farm and all these horses are now dead and you just destroyed the livelihood of, like, some poor farm?
Exactly.
Or,
if
like,
she smushed a little squirrel or something. I mean, she definitely killed something with that ice.
The whole village herself, probably. Like, what the fuck? It was just...
And it's funny because Alucard and Trevor both look at her like, what the fuck was that for? And she's like, I didn't want it to melt and ruin all the books.
Yeah.
So, like, it was such an innocent reason for doing it, but at the same time, it's like, Sypha, honey, you have magic powers. You could have just shot it up in the air and turned it to fucking rain so that it didn't hurt anything.
Yeah,
I mean, she murdered a tree.
Missed.
Squirrels and rabbits. Lots of things. She definitely killed some stuff when she did that. And, like, her intentions were honest and innocent, but girl, you killed something.
Oh my god, that was so funny.
I think it's either right at the end of episode 6 or right at the beginning of episode 7. I think it's episode 7. We see Dracula's eyes the whites of his eyes fill with blood and turn red. I assume it's blood, I don't know. But as his eyes turn red, the moon also turns red. And I have questions about how he can do that. Because nobody who has ever had the power to turn the moon red?
Because
except like eclipses, and, like, when it first rises in the night, it sometimes looks red. But that's all explainable.
Because That's it. Because magic. Because he's
Yeah,
fucking Dracula.
that's
why.
again, yeah, like that's the explanation we get because it's Castlevania, because magic.
Yeah.
Let's see. So this is the episode where we get 90% of the action of the series. Really, I mean, like definitely the season. We get most of our action in this episode.
Yeah, this is the big fight.
Yeah, when Alucard, Sypha, and Trevor go into Dracula's castle, which is now right in front of them. They bust in and they make a very dramatic camera scene out of it. Like all the vampires, the elders, the generals, they stop fighting and they look and they see these guys all and they're like, oh shit. But they aren't deterred. They're still gonna attack, of course. But there's some really cool kills. At one point, and this is my second favorite kill, she has that dude with the gold robes and he's got a gold like turban. I don't know what that hat is called, but it looks like a turban kind of. And she's shooting ice darts at him and he's dodging them all. And I don't know exactly what caused her. Oh, she tried to make a giant ass ice blade to drop on his head and he dodges it and then jumps up on top of it and starts running on the
like
edge of the blade. Yes, just like that. Starts running towards her to get her. And of course, what does she do? She brings the blade back up and slices him in half with it. Right, just fucking dead center. It was cool. My first favorite kill though is the one of or perhaps the last vampire to die, which is probably why it was the coolest kill. Alucard and Trevor are going back and forth with the last remaining female vampire general and the last remaining male vampire general. And the female, she kind of looks like maybe she's from India.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And yeah, and like they're all obviously royalty of whatever country they came from. Like the Indian is very like she's dripping with jewels and she's got very fine silks on. She's very obviously
one, I think.
What?
I think that was the Japanese one.
Yeah. I thought I don't remember how she died.
Whatever.
Doesn't matter. Yeah, it doesn't matter because there's like so. Alucard. Trevor swings the Morning Star and it wraps around the male vampire's legs, and the end of it comes around the what's the ball at the end called? The mace part, the bludgeoning part. Yeah, that comes swinging around, and the female vampire ducks and ducks so that because it was going to hit her and kill her, and it continues to wrap around the man instead, but. As she's putting her concentration on ducking, Alucard's swinging in with his magic sword and slices her fucking head off. So her death wasn't particularly impressive, but Trevor has the Morning Star wrapped around the dude's legs, and he's like bald, and he's got this very sumptuous red cape and like armor and shit on, and I'm thinking maybe he's Baltic.
Yeah, that sounds right.
It's like Eastern European. I don't know.
Yeah.
So yeah, like whatever denomination he is, it doesn't matter because he's about to die. So Trevor swings. He's got him tangled up in the Morning Star whip. He like lashes, like jerks him and flings him back towards the opening of the castle where Sypha's standing, and Sypha just like puts her hand on his forehead and blows up his fucking head, and it's amazing. And I fucking love it. And it's got more of that scratchy animation that I love too. So those are my 1 and 2 favorite kills. And my third favorite kill is actually probably from season 1, if I'm honest. So yeah, and then my favorite part of that whole killing the dude by blowing up his head is when she blows him up, his body just kerplunks down to the ground, and then she just walks calmly off towards Alucard and Trevor. There's just nothing there. Yeah, so what's your favorite kill? Did you have a favorite?
I agree with the slicing in half, because that was that was just pure genius for her to think.
Creative, yeah.
It was just you don't see that kind of stuff often, and again, that's where I really like the creativity behind the choreography and the fight scenes in this series is like so cool. That's definitely my favorite kill, though, I think, out of the whole series.
Yeah. Oh, and it's like, I mean, I think almost all of the kills of the vampire generals in that scene are very creative, very well animated, very well choreographed, because they didn't care so much about all the faceless soldiers. Like, they literally faceless vampire soldiers. They have nothing, like, you can see their helmets, which covers most of their faces, but all you can see of it is their little red eyes in most of the scenes. So, like, we don't give a shit about those guys. They're completely expendable. And they're, yeah, unimpressive. Like, Alucard turns into a wolf at one point and jumps through the crowd, and then uses his magic sword, swings it around, and then he grabs it with his little wolf mouth and cuts off somebody's head. Like, it's
Shit, I forgot about that. Yeah, that was cool.
yeah, yeah, that's all cool. But I mean, definitely the blowing up his head and the slicing him in half with ice. Like, those are definitely better kills. Let's see. This one is like that, especially towards the end, you know, when we get to the big boss battle with Dracula. It's hard, it's such a good battle, but it's hard to enjoy it because you know that no matter who would win, it sucks. Because no matter who would win, nobody really wins. Like, and that's what they did a really excellent job of storytelling in that. Yeah. Before Alucard and Dracula meet, before Sypha and Trevor join them, and they have like a kind of a touching moment of Dad, please stop this, and you know, I gotta stop you because Mom would have wanted this, but like, Dracula cares for him, but he's clearly beyond the point of sanity, and they, you know, attack each other. He immediately throws Alucard across the room, and he falls into the fireplace. And I went, no, not his hair. He's got this beautiful hair. Don't burn his hair. But his hair was fine. It was all good.
I'm sure even his hair has magical powers. So
probably it's like the Interview with the Vampire. Kirsten Dunst, like, her hair, she chops it all off, and then it just grows right back 2 seconds later. Just like that. We didn't even see it burn because it didn't even burn. It's unburnable. And then he uses Trevor. That is gonna bug me until I take care of it. Trevor goes one of his first attacks on Dracula. So Dracula attacks Alucard, attacks Sypha, attacks Trevor, and Trevor whips out, you know it, the fucking stick that he used to murder a demon in the hold that broke in half. And I was like, I love that and he didn't even pull out the sharp end. He used the blunt end of the stick. It was hilarious. We probably wouldn't have recognized it if he hadn't used the blunt end, though. So, but still, like, he had the stick from the previous episode, and it was beautiful.
Oh my god.
Yeah, and that, you know, the part where Dracula, they crash through the whole fucking castle, really, and they are destroying things. Like, it should have been rubble around their ankles by that point, but somehow, because magic, it's still standing. Yeah. But when they end up in Alucard's childhood bedroom, and Dracula looks around him, and he suddenly returns to sanity, and he's going, oh my god, what am I doing? Mm-hmm. And the part that I thought was really poignant was that the childhood bedroom is what made him snap to his senses. Mm-hmm. And he also says at one point, I must already be dead. I'm killing the greatest gift that Lisa ever gave me. I must already be dead, is what he's paraphrasing, but that's what he said. Mm-hmm. And I thought it was a really excellent punctuation that Alucard uses not the stake that he brought with him, but he snaps a chunk of his childhood bed off and uses that to stake Dracula. Like, it's not a nitpick. It's just it's an observation that I made at some point, and I was just like, that was so good and so easily overlooked. And that he just walks up to him and stabs him, and like, Dracula lets him. Like, there's no fight in the end. After all that battling, he just is like, you know what, you're right and I'm wrong, and this is how it should be, the end.
Yeah. And
I don't necessarily consider when Sypha lights him on fire after, like, so Alucard stakes him through the heart, Trevor chops his head off, and then Sypha lights his body on fire. When Sypha lights his body on fire, there's a point at which he kind of explodes a bit, and then, like, those ghosts
Yes.
black ghost heads blow out of him and out the whole castle. And I'm just sitting here going, what's that about? Was he like full of souls or something?
Yeah, he was
Because
like
the last time I saw something like that, the person was full of souls.
Yeah, I don't know.
I want to know how Dracula's the original vampire, but I want to know how he was created. Like, what are all the souls, are all the little ghost heads that we see, are they the souls of the people that he murdered as Dracula, or murdered before he became a vampire? I'm just curious. It's not important to the show, to the storyline at all, but like, I'm curious about that stuff.
Yeah, that would be a good thing to discuss, because I I have no idea what that was about. I mean, I'm sitting here thinking kind of what you just said. It could be just a representation of all of the people that he's killed over
Mhm.
the centuries, and their spirits are finally free.
Hmm.
They're at peace now and at rest finally. That's my best guess on what that.
Yeah. Astian says, I think it's in the games, one of the 3D ones, which I am going to, as soon as we're done here, I'm going to pop off another message to Maddox and ask him what that is about, because yes, Maddox seems to know his shit when it comes to those games, so he surely should know the answer to that if it's in the games.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I like episode 7 was just so good and so heartbreaking and so full of action, and I just feel like we didn't spend enough time on it, even though, like, I mean, we're about out of time. We're technically 7 minutes out of time now, but like, it's just like it feels wrong to use the same amount of time on that episode as the fucking episode 5 when there's penis spells and Isaac hates the heat and shit. Like, oh, sad face, But I guess we got to move on. We got one more left, and we need to finish up so that everybody can go on with their lives.
Yeah.
So episode 8 was, I think you and I both agreed it was pretty unnecessary. They could have crammed that stuff into the last 10 minutes of the last episode.
Yeah, exactly. And that's exactly what I have written here. You really only needed to add in an extra 5 minutes to the end of episode 7, to give the basic idea of where everybody's lives went to after the big battle. You didn't need a 30-minute episode of Alucard moping around the castle, for 15 minutes or whatever. Yes, it kind of drives home the aftermath of what happened and how he's like learning to process it.
Mm-hmm.
That I think that's part of the problem with the series in general. A lot of these things that they're doing in the series would have, I'll just say, would be less boring if this was live action, because you would be able to relate a little bit more to a human actor with their emotions,
Mm-hmm.
easily seen, versus a 2D drawing. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I think that's kind of where they're trying to make a live action movie, but it's cartoon form, and you don't really get. Yes, it was very sad, especially at the end, which we'll probably talk about when he's sitting in his chair at the end of the episode. But yeah, you really, in this kind of show, I just don't think you need it, and it just, they could have just wrapped it up in within 5 minutes and be done with it.
Yeah, I agree completely, and I think that you're on to something with the mention of it would have been a little bit better received if it were live action. I think because by the nature of animation, the background is always static unless they animate it, unless they take the time to animate it, whereas backgrounds are more dynamic when you do live action.
Exactly.
That's just how it is. And so that makes sense, and that I totally agree with that it would have been a little bit more compelling. That whole end scene where Alucard is walking through the castle and he's having those like flashbacks, those ghosts of his father and mother and himself running through the castle. It would have been more dynamic if it were live action, but it wasn't bad. But it definitely, even if it were live action, it probably could have, and maybe even and should have been cut down into a little bit less, where he shows a scene, instead of seeing us separately, seeing Dracula, seeing his father, and then seeing an image of himself, and then seeing an image of his mother. He could have seen them all together as a group playing together somehow, because it was obvious that Dracula was a very involved father.
Yeah.
So there had to be tons of memories he had where they were all three together and having fun and loving each other.
Yeah.
So they could have shown one of those instead of three separate ones, and then end scene. I did think, though, the very, very end, where he pulls his father's chair, was tipped over, and he pulls it up and he sits in it, and it's like that was the chair that Dracula spent pretty much all of season 2 sitting in. Yeah. And he sits in that chair, and he's the man of the house now. This is his castle now, and then just he thinks, you can see him thinking, you see the flashbacks happening, and he just completely breaks down and starts sobbing, and it's a very bittersweet ending to which is, again, a testament how excellent this season was, because you usually, when you're watching a season of an action-y type show like this, you get a really hyped up ending, and you don't get the aftermath. So that part of it I actually really liked, was that there was some aftermath.
True.
But that they ended it on that melancholy note of, while they did win, the good guys prevailed, it wasn't really it wasn't a total victory. It wasn't a complete victory.
Yeah.
Which reminds you at the end that all, like, the good guys won, but it still wasn't. Did the good guys really win?
Yeah.
So the next seasons are a little bit more cut and dry on who the bad guy is. So that I actually appreciate.
Mm-hmm.
I almost wish that they hadn't made that season 3 and 4 as part of this larger series, because I think 1 and 2 were just almost perfect in themselves.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And like you said at the beginning, when we decided to do this, that seasons 1 and season 1 and 2 were very hard to shit on, because we literally had to nitpick, because there was just it was so goddamn good.
Yeah.
It was just so good.
Yeah, we'll just wait for season 3 and 4, and it's gonna be easy as pie.
Oh yeah, then we're gonna take 2.5 hours, just because that's how much there is to shit on. It won't be about how much about me miscalculating my synopsis and how much time it was gonna take. It'll be just, we have so much to shit on.
Oh, God.
Episode 8, when we touch base with Isaac, that fucking skeezy blonde fucker that is, he refers to Isaac as an it, and I'm like,
yeah,
no bones about it. Isaac is my favorite character of the whole series, of the whole thing. He's my favorite.
Yep.
He is insightful and he's compelling. He has great growth from season 1 to, season 2, because we don't meet him in season 1. But, like, his character grows from when we meet him to the end of the series.
Definitely.
He is my favorite, and he absolutely gives that blonde scarred fuck what he deserves.
Yep.
Deserves it. Ugh. Yeah, and I wrote down that I thought the ending of the story was beautiful. The part where Carmilla decides to beat the ever-loving shit out of Hector seemed counterintuitive to me.
It wasn't, I don't know. Again, like, do you really need it? Because we already know she's a horrible person. It just seemed unnecessary, but I guess they had to literally beat it into us, like, how cruel she is. And she doesn't give a fuck about anybody except herself and her own priorities, whatever they are. And just
selfish and spoiled.
Yeah, they really want you to feel for Hector, though, too. And you do. He's naive and he's gullible, but I can't. I think Carmilla even says it, like, man babies. He's like a child. I think Isaac says it too, actually. Hector is just a boy in a man.
Dracula says it as well.
Yeah,
all 3 of them say that about Hector, is that he's a boy in a man's body. They all say it, and they're all 100% right. Like, it's like, he seems so intelligent, and so how can he be so bad at reading people?
Yeah,
and he shouldn't even possess the skill that he has, because it's just like he's so smart, but yet he's so dumb.
He doesn't have people skills, I guess.
Yeah.
You know,
And the worst part about it is after the battle is over, and he doesn't learn anything.
no.
His character does not really grow. Well, he kind of at the end, I guess, in future seasons, he does kind of grow a little bit, but he doesn't grow like Isaac grows. He definitely doesn't grow like Trevor or Sypha or Alucard. He's got the least amount, and the only one who grows less as a character than Hector is fucking Carmilla.
Yeah.
And that's because she starts off as a whore and she ends as a whore. Like it's all, she is just a terrible, awful, one-note person with no character depth and no, like you said, no sympathy. Like she's not sympathetic. And the beating was like, I did feel a little bad for Hector, but also was like, you dumb fucker, you had the entire day from the moment the sun came up. You could have grabbed a horse and run away, and you could have been many miles away. They've made no indication at this point, or maybe not ever, that she had any real way of tracking where he went after he left. Like, they didn't say that she could smell him and find him, or she made no threats about being able to find him no matter where he tried to hide. Like, he could have absolutely gotten away. You know what? He could have just gone for a swim in that fucking river that they blessed. And just stayed in the river. She wouldn't have come to get him. She would have left him there.
Oh my God.
She didn't really have a choice to stay very long. They would have, the townspeople would have figured out eventually that there was a vampire in that house, and they would have burned it to the ground. Yeah. So she couldn't stay. So, I mean, just Hector is stupid. He has no common sense, and he doesn't learn anything. Like, he makes this mistake of trusting Carmilla. She betrays him. He learns nothing. And he trusts her again. What the fuck is wrong with him?
I don't know if he trusts her. I think, again, it's just fear. He knew he fucked up and probably feared Dracula wouldn't take him back. And he's like, I'm fucked. I'm stuck with this.
Oh, right. Like, you actually mentioned this previously, that he has a battered wife thing happening.
That's what I think is really
yeah.
It's like he knows he's not going to get treated any better, but he's kind of, he's stuck. He doesn't know where else to go. I don't know. I felt bad for him in the beginning, but over time, he was just annoying to me. I really.
He was. He just got irritating. I mean, he gets worse before he gets better, for sure. But I agree. He was very annoying to me, especially that last episode. And bye. Sorry. And he gets worse before he gets better. He's super irritating right then. And despite the fact that he knows he can't go back to Dracula, he also should know that he doesn't have to. He could have just run away and gone back to his little hut in the woods, wherever it was.
Yeah.
I don't get why he didn't, because he knew he couldn't trust Carmilla he was well aware that he couldn't trust her. And he knew that he was aware that he probably couldn't go back to Dracula, even if Dracula was still alive, which they both kind of assumed at that point that he was dead.
Yeah.
So why didn't he go? I'm not sure. Like, I dislike Carmilla as she's not a fun character to watch, even though, bad guy, good guy, they're all fun to watch except for Carmilla and Hector. Because they don't, like, Hector has some growth in the next seasons, but Carmilla has zero growth. She's very unfun to watch. And and Hector has almost no growth. So not fun to watch, not fun to stay. I don't sympathize with either of them.
Right.
I did at the beginning with Hector. I did until she told him, like Carmilla told him what was going on, what her plans were to betray Dracula, and he fucking did nothing. He could have run as soon as she left him. He could have gone to Dracula and been like, Carmilla's gonna betray you, and I'm still loyal to you, so I want to make sure you know this.
Mm-hmm.
He could have done. He could have stopped it. There were so many points, so many times he could have stopped it. I mean, even when they got out of the castle at Brayla, and they blessed the river, and she told him he couldn't go back now. Like, and then when shit started to go sideways, she's like, "You're stuck now. You're stuck here. You can't go back now." He could have. There were so many points right up until the castle disappeared from Brayla that he could have absolutely gone back and fixed what he had fucked up.
Yep.
He just Why didn't he do that? That's probably all I have to say about the epilogue there.
Yeah.
It could have been condensed into about 10 minutes tops. And the whole season has its issues with pacing, but overall, very, very, like the character arcs are dense. The story is dense. The random bits and bobs of lore that we get that's probably from the video game, very like it's all in there, and it's so good, so good.
Yeah.
And episode, season 2, by far my favorite. So, yeah. I mean, yeah. I guess that's all I have to say about that.
I don't know. I don't have anything else to say because the cat's kind of walking on me and fucking things up right now. So she's like, "Okay, go to bed."
Man. Fucking cats, I tell you. Well, yeah. I guess that's the end of it. I hope. I mean, we didn't get a lot of people watching again today, so that's unfortunate. But I have to say thank you again to Steven for hanging in there with us because
thank you.
Because you got some good comments this time too, some very insightful stuff, and thank you for the Googling too.
Yes.
Yes, I mean it's not something I can stop and do while I'm trying to concentrate on this, so I appreciate. And I don't know if Katie's still here, but thank you for, even if you didn't stay the whole time, thanks. I do have one UHS announcement that I need to pull up here. I want to let you guys know what our next episode is about. Next week on Monday, same bat time, same bat channel, we are going to be talking to our buddy John Pence and our new buddy Maxim Mel. He's an artist. We're going to talk about, the title is very long. It's called Enough Dough to Buy More Bullets, a Jonesy and Dr. Long Adventure. So that is what we're going to be talking about next week here on UHS Presents. And thank you for sticking in there with us here. And next episode of Critical Effects, we're going to be talking about season 3 of Castlevania, but that's going to come after Dr. Jonesy. So we'll hopefully make it even a little bit better that time, and maybe shave off that extra 20 minutes of too much time that we threw in there. So we'll get it down to that hour and a half one of these times. and yeah, hopefully we can watch. Hopefully we can get more people to watch. By the way, if you are catching this Dr. Jonesy thing, like, that is actually only available on Patreon and Global Comics. So if you want to read that before you come talk with us about it, you're going to have to grab it there. So become a patron. It's patreon.com/UH Studios, as it is with most of our links these days. Yeah, that's it. We're good. Yay. So thank you for hanging in there, and we will see you next week. Have a wonderful nocturne. Bye.
Bye.